It's college football season, which means you need the unbeatable coverage of Sling TV starting at just $35 a month. Sling has all the big games on all the biggest channels like ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN3, SEC Network, ACC Network, Fox, Big Ten Network, Pac-12 Network, Longhorn Network, all for the best price. You can stream on any device. You can record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space, and you can pause or change your service at any time. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the live TV you love at a price you'll love. Try it today. Welcome to the Andy Staples Show presented by Sling, and got another job opening. I'm excited for Ari on this one because Arizona State is open, and I think at some point somebody, whoever gets this job needs to make the call, make a reservation at Chompy's, have the interview, and bring Ari home as the Sun Devils recruiting coordinator.
You've been to Phoenix a ton, Andy.
Yes.
So where would ASU's official visit restaurant be if it was up to you? I feel like that would be actually kind of a fun series of.
Golly, that's a lot of choices. So Chuck Box is right on campus, and that's sort of the iconic ASU restaurant. It's a kind of a greasy burger place, really good. Little Miss Barbecue's not far from there.
That's like your jam.
I think that's the best barbecue west of the Rockies that I've had.
I think that you need to be thinking 280 grand big and not like burger big. Like we're talking like let's
Ari,
use Scottsdale as
I don't need anything fancy though. Although the Breakfast Club in Scottsdale, that is where I would take the parent. As we learned from Sam Kahn Jr.'s amazing story on Arch Manning's official visit weekend at Texas, the parents of recruits love their mimosas and Bloody Marys. So I am going to take them to the Breakfast Club on Scottsdale Road for those drinks.
That's where we eat breakfast every time we're together in Arizona.
That is correct. And it's a good place to do it. It is now Phoenix, Metro Phoenix is a snooze town as well. Snooze is a breakfast brunch place that started in Denver and has expanded.
But now it's a chain, so it's kind of.
Yeah, but Breakfast Club is a local place. And yeah, that one would be awesome. But the problem, see, there are some really nice fancy places in Phoenix, Ari, but my favorites are kind of the dumpy ones. Like Tacos Chihuas is like an old fast food restaurant.
So you would go like Spirit of the Southwest type, like here's exactly what you can only eat here type of a thing. Yeah. You're not thinking like expensive steakhouses and top shelf liquor for the parents.
Well, you can easily do that. I mean, the thing is you have in Scottsdale and actually in Tempe, you have all of those things. So you can do that. You can take them to the Maserati dealership on Scottsdale Road if you want to. But I think you show them why this place is special. And like you say with your alma mater, their Territorial Cup rival Arizona, like all you need to do is take that walk. Really, all you got to do is walk around campus.
Yeah.
And you're good.
I mean, I don't know if this is going to start a conversation about like, is this a sleeping giant? I believe that it is. And everybody always jokes like ASU is a sleeping giant. But like, is this like how we're going to approach this? Like, can the right person make Arizona State a legitimate national championship contender if he's there long enough to do it?
I'm a little concerned the right person is in trouble this time. Like, it's hard to find. It may be harder to find the right person this time because the NCAA has them dead to rights on that recruiting stuff. Now, I don't even know what the NCAA is going to do going forward about anything.
It just kind of feels like to me, like now that we're in the NIL era, and I don't know if this is just like something dumb to think, but I just feel like the NCAA is just an entity that just isn't feared anymore.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not.
Like, what are they going to do? Like, it's like, are we in the era of college football of like, what's the NCAA going to do?
But we got Scott Docterman from The Athletic with us. We're not asking about Iowa's offense for once. We'll ask about it later. But Scott, I'm curious because you've seen this work at a few different schools. Like, if you were, say, docked a bunch of official visits or a bunch of scholarships, which is what they might do with this thing, would that make you not want this job if you could have Nebraska, if you could have Auburn, if you could have Georgia Tech? All of these jobs appear to be coming open.
I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal because you get so many official visits and people coming on your campus. And if you're in a good community or if you're at a great college town, and I think all 4 of those qualify, then I think it wouldn't be that big of a deterrent. Now, if you're going to lose a bowl a year without a bowl, or if you're going to get docked scholarships, then I'd probably be a little bit more concerned. But I think Arizona State is potentially a sleeping giant. It's in a great community that's growing. It's such a unique area, and look at what you're going to have. You're going to have the opportunity to get to the playoff every year in the Pac-12 if you're the champion. And so without USC there, everybody's built like you. I mean, Utah has Kyle Whittingham, but it's not like Salt Lake is a destination versus Phoenix. I mean, it's the 11th biggest market.
Yeah, and you should also never be without a quarterback, and you should never leave a 50-mile radius to recruit a quarterback. Like, if you can't sign quality quarterbacks from Metro Phoenix, don't even bother applying for the job.
I mean, is it too early in the show to just flat out rank these jobs right now? If you were taking the job, which ones you want?
Let's do that, but also let's bring in the other jobs that we. So
yeah,
I'm of the mind, because we saw Nebraska happen so early, and we saw Arizona State happen so early, which seems to me like the ADs basically telling themselves, well, I should have done this after last season. I screwed up. But I do wonder if that will speed up the process elsewhere. Like, does that speed up the process at Georgia Tech of firing Jeff Collins? Does that speed up the process of firing Brian Harsin in Auburn? Like, are we going to see all of these jobs open before Halloween?
Well, it just depends on how fast you think that a program could make their hire. It's like, what's the timetable for Arizona State to replace their coach now?
It's not going to be like, I don't think any of these are going to be like Texas Tech last year, where like Texas Tech was a weird one, and everybody was like, this is the new trend. This is Texas Tech. They wanted to fire Matt Wells before he won too many games to fire him. And they wanted to hire Joey McGuire. So that's why that happened the way it did. This feels like it's happening for a different reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at Herman Edwards, he didn't even tread water there, and then losing to Eastern Michigan and a guy like Chris Creighton, who is a lifer type coach who's just really gone up the ranks. I think it really spelled that this is the end. And again, with Arizona State, you have a place that's averages about 50,000 attendance at games. Money-wise, they're about halfway through the big for the Pac-12. And you have such uncertainty right now with what's going to happen to the Pac-12 once USC and UCLA leave. Could the Big 12 be involved? You want to put yourself at the head of the table, not at the back. And I think right now, the most interesting aspect for me is, do you go hire the hot young recruiting coordinator who has recruiting ties like Ari suggested, or do you go out and get the proven guy that, wow, that came out of left field, but he might be able to do something like, let's say, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, that, wow, you bring him in here.
But is Arizona State a better job than Iowa State? I'm not sure it is.
It has more upside. It has more upside. You know, it doesn't have more stability. It doesn't have more passion. But I think that you could go there and legitimately get to the playoff and reach maybe the semifinals if you're a really good team. You know, at Iowa State, maybe you get in once.
The one mistake that we made on the show last year, I don't want to make again. That mistake was assuming that anybody who was currently successful in their current positions off the board.
So that's true. Yeah. The Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly moving should change how we feel about all of this.
And in 10 years from now or 5 years from now, what happened last year might be the craziest outlier the sport has seen in the coaching carousel ranks. But are there coaches who are currently happily, successfully employed at their current job that would leave their job to go coach at ASU? And if the answer is yes, like that to me opens up a whole different ball game. And I'm talking head coaches.
I don't think ASU can write that check though. Like they can't write the check that USC wrote to Lincoln Riley or the check that LSU wrote to Brian Kelly. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But could they go after that next tier, like a Matt Campbell, a PJ Fleck?
Yes, they could definitely go after
Eli
them. PJ Fleck makes a lot of money. Here, this is where the Big Ten SEC dynamic comes in. Like any Big Ten school, any SEC school can easily outpay Arizona State. It's not going to be a problem. So if they really want to keep that coach, they can match the money.
But that's the interesting dynamic here, which is if you look at let's say PJ Fleck at Minnesota, are you going to get to the playoff ever? maybe in 10 years, maybe once.
You can make the playoff as the 12-team playoff as the third or fourth best Big Ten team.
I think that
that's
absolutely is changing if the playoff changes.
Yeah. I think in the Big Ten, you don't have to win the league. Like the Pac-12, you're going to have to win the league.
Right.
But in the Big Ten, you can probably be 3 or 4 and make it.
Yeah, but even to get to 3 or 4 for them has been very difficult now. They haven't even been to the Big Ten title game in the West, and you got to go through, and then you're going to have to go through a USC, a Penn State, Michigan State, Iowa, Wisconsin to do it. But at Arizona State, you have that one vein, and you have that untapped resource, which is their recruiting base that they completely ignored. I mean, look at Iowa State's best ever quarterback came from Gilbert, Arizona.
Oh,
and, and
you know that, Andy?
Oh, yeah.
Met up with his mom outside his high school, and this is when Chubba, who's at Nebraska now, was still in high school, and but yeah, I mean Brock Purdy was from there. You look at all the different Spencer Rattler, obviously was from there as a huge recruit. It produces a ton of quarterbacks. If you watch the Notre Dame Cal game, Jack Plummer, who played at Purdue before, another Phoenix guy. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are coming out of Phoenix because there are a lot of good offensive coaches at the high school level. Speaking of which, Ari and I came up with the same name on this job, and it ties back into the high school level in Metro Phoenix. Kenny Dillingham, the Oregon offensive coordinator, Ari and I both, that was the name that jumped to the top of our minds immediately. He worked at Chaparral High School, would go in the mornings and volunteer when Todd Graham was at Arizona State and Mike Norvell was the offensive coordinator, and would basically just sit there and just do whatever they needed him to do. And that's how he got his start. And he ends up working for Norvell at Memphis, goes to Auburn with Gus Malzahn, goes to Florida State with Norvell, and now he's the OC at Oregon. And play calling looked pretty darn good.
My first crush in the history
good too.
Of my life, the girl that I was first in love with in high school went to Chaparral. So that school, it's broken my heart, but I do think that like when you look at the arc of coaching ranks, the fact that he started at high school, then did a graduate assistant at the local college, and then went off and then gradually went up, and consistently had,
he's still only 32
and he's 30. He's younger than I am. Yeah. And he now has a commitment from Dante Moore to Oregon. And like, I get the fact that it's going to be harder to get a 5-star prospect out of Detroit to go to ASU at this point.
Again, quarterback
doesn't have to, but that's what I was
just
going to say.
Phoenix.
Like, if he's doing that, like, is that the kind of guy that can get the 4-star Jack Miller type, out of there when he comes up, or the 3 stars that have gone on to be very, very good elsewhere? I mean, if you go look at the 247 Sport composite rankings right now, I don't think that Arizona.
Shook. I mean, is that one, or is Ty Thompson's an Arizona kid?
Yeah.
The Valley of the Quarterbacks is what I once heard it was called. And what was it? Who wrote that? The thing that scares me about ASU is the same thing that they did last time they got this hire. They hired somebody whose name is recognizable to everybody, but might not necessarily be the fit necessary to grow a program. So to me, I feel like the idea is that you would get a person that your program could grow with, right? A person that's growing up in the industry that is up and coming and energized.
Ray Anderson thought he had a brilliant idea, and that he was going to bring in Herb, and Billy Napier was going to be the offensive coordinator, and Phil Bennett was going to be the defensive coordinator. And Billy Napier was like, no, I wanted the job, so I'm going to go take the head coaching job in Lafayette and show you that I could be a better head coach than this guy was. And I would argue he probably did. I talked to Doug Haller, our Arizona State beat writer, about that several months ago. But the thing was, at the time, you didn't know what Billy Napier would be as a head coach. So, but
why is Arizona State afraid to invest in a guy like that?
Ray Anderson wanted to hire his buddy. He wanted to hire his former client, Herm Edwards. That's why.
No, I'm just saying, like, this time when we go through the coaching ranks and some of the names that are coming up here, I don't think that we should hire somebody who's like PJ Fleck. To me, is who he is, and you either like him or you don't. I don't have an opinion either way, but I don't know that you need to go hire somebody who is semi-established because he has a recognizable name when he hasn't even played in his own conference's championship game.
You're going to have to tell Ray Anderson that, or you're going to have to tell Michael Crow, the Arizona State president, to fire Ray Anderson and let somebody else make the hire.
This isn't
that may be in the offing. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't know that that's the right fit. It's like kind of like the same, you know what? It's just like Arizona did with Kevin Sumlin. It's like, okay, well, he was really a hot shot at A&M.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, how many coaches can you hire that haven't been, you know, at the apex of success at other places in order to try to come save a program? Why don't you try to get a star in the making before he's a star so that you get him?
Jonathan Weber with a great suggestion. Now, maybe not for Arizona State, because I don't know if this guy would take the job. But what are your thoughts on Jim Leonard, the Wisconsin defensive coordinator, becoming a head coach? We assume it will be at Wisconsin, but what if it's at a different school? I can tell you right now, there was definite interest in Jim Leonard for head coaching jobs last year at various schools. He's viewed as very hard to get out of there because he likes it at Wisconsin. The other thing about Jim Leonard that is different from everybody else is he played in the NFL for a long time. Money's not an issue for him. Like, he's made his money.
He had the opportunity to go to the Green Bay Packers and be their DC, and he turned him down to stay at Madison. And I think a lot of people expect him to be the guy that replaces Paul Chryst, but Paul Chryst is only 56 years old. I mean, if he stays another 10 years, that's a decade that he's going to have to be in Madison. Now, there are worse places on earth than Madison, Wisconsin, except for maybe mid-January through mid-February. But I think overall, he's the type of guy that would be perfect in the upper Midwest, because he coaches that style. That 3-4 defense is amazing. But, you know, the interesting part with Arizona State, and as Ari was talking about, is I'm not suggesting a retreat by any stretch. Lovie Smith was a failure at Illinois. And what we saw with Herm Edwards was a disaster at Arizona State. But I think somebody who's maybe on that second level that looks at, you know, maybe if I go there, I can build it into the power program of the West Coast, you know, other than USC and, you know, going down to the Big Ten, and make that a destination rather than just you know, because Colorado and Arizona State are kind of in the same boat right now, which is, how can you be terrible at those two spots? They're awesome locations.
Byron Alice just said exactly how I view it in the chat here. Prime time to ASU and make it flashy, fun place that the Valley is. Like, go there and brand it what it is. Like Scottsdale nightlife, you know, beautiful scenery, cool uniforms, stadium in a mountain.
Well, it's
great restaurants.
only cool uniforms if they bring back the old uniforms. Well,
I mean, I feel like
on the helmet all the time.
That's probably true for 85% of college football programs in general. But I do think that is a place, like, if you brand it Pac-12 After Dark's King, like, if you get people to buy into it, of like, could you possibly create a world where every single person on Saturday is like, I cannot wait for 10 p.m. Eastern because Arizona State's coming on TV. Like, if that's the thing that we're...
And I'll tell you who the perfect... It's weird because this coach's personality would not work for that, but the program he's created works for it. But he's got a better job now and a much more...
I know who you're going to say.
Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
It's Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel's offense and what he has allowed that Tennessee program to become, it's not Josh. It's not his personality. Like, he's not going to blow you away in interviews or anything. But if you look at how much fun they have and how much fun they're allowed to have as a program, like, that's
so
what
you think that you could accomplish that without having the personality that matches it?
Well, here's an interesting thought. Like, Alex Golesh, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, I think has the personality to do something like that. And he's coming from that program where you allow the program to be that fun place where guys can go and thrive and the offense is high flying and they're scoring a ton of points. Like, that would work. Yeah, it sure would. I think as long as you're exciting and interesting and you're in a pro market like that, that's the way to get everybody kind of interested. But I'm also going to say Dion for every job, by the way. Yeah. Like Dion for Arizona State, Dion for Georgia Tech, Dion for Auburn, hell, Dion for Nebraska.
I mean, could you imagine Deion Sanders at Arizona State?
I would love it. How awesome would that be?
Like, I'm trying to stay within the realm of reason, and it is because I just don't know
what's unreasonable about that. I'm telling you, if his name was Dave Smith and he hadn't been the greatest cornerback of all time and he'd been grinding his way through from GA to, you know, group of five.
I'm not saying that it's not rational to think of him as a candidate. I don't know if it's rational to expect that he would take another job right now. I don't know where he's at. So
I don't know where
I would hire him over Kenny Dillingham in a second if he wanted to do it, because that's the flash and flare that ASU could command. Now, the thing that you guys are going to think I'm crazy, Scott, buckle your seatbelt here, buddy. It's going to be weird. When I was in Columbus, Ohio, for some coverage that we had before the season started of Ohio State, I was like falling asleep in my bed in my hotel room, and I was watching ESPN, and old clips of like the Miami U documentary was on, the 30 for 30.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching it, and I was like thinking, like, not all the violence and some of the stuff that happened, but like the flash and flare of that program at the time. I thought to myself, man, if ASU could ever be like that, that would be like one of the
if somebody creates that program now, it would not be vilified the way the Miami program was. We are much more understanding of, I mean, there was a racial aspect to that. Let's be honest, to them being vilified. We like personality better now than we did then.
Yeah, and like the money stuff, if it's done,
nobody would care.
No one cares. No. And like, there was a few things like that happened that wouldn't be stood for right now, but obviously, I don't even mean like off the field. I mean, if you get good kids who and you like made the whole thing fun, is okay. Like, it's okay to celebrate, dance, joke, come out of the locker room, score a touchdown and run into the locker room. Like, all that stuff within the realm of the rules. Come here and be yourself. Flash. We're going to take television.
Run into the tunnel, scoring a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's wrong with any of that?
Nothing. I think the perfect persona are the Night Kings. Game of Thrones. Yeah. Except you're in maroon or whatever the shade of red.
Do a blackout to go in with the night at 10 o'clock. Yeah. You're playing some Washington State's coming into town, and the over/under 79.
Yeah.
It would be so much fun. I mean, that's the thing. That's a fun place as it is. It's a great party school. It's a great environment.
The football team has to mirror the party school aspect.
The stadium is built into the side of a freaking mountain. Yeah,
that's what Jed Fish is doing at Arizona. I mean, his whole thing is some people work their entire lives to come retire in Tucson. Why wouldn't you want to live here?
It's you know whose sales pitch that was? You know who he stole that from?
Who did he steal that from?
That was Steve Spurrier's sales pitch to James Bates, a linebacker from Sevierville, Tennessee, whose dad was a NFL coordinator. He said, son, Bates spent a whole life trying to come to Florida. You can do it at 18.
Yeah, but like, I also feel like these are the 4 best years of your life. Mm-hmm. Everybody who goes to college looks back at their 4 years of college and thinks, man, that was the peak of my life. Why not do it in Tempe, freaking Arizona? And have a lot of fun doing it.
Back in the early 90s, that was the destination job we talked about in the Midwest, or the destination, college place. We want to go to Arizona State. It's got everything. And of course, all the things that teenage boys want. But, it's perfect. So to me, embrace it, enjoy it, because if you're irrelevant there, you're irrelevant everywhere, because you're talking about one of the biggest cities in the country, but great weather. And you've got access to the West Coast. You've got access to recruits. And you just got to make sure that you're a marketable game in town, the way the U was in the mid 80s, because the Dolphins, even with a great quarterback, couldn't have that kind of mentality.
Pac-12 After Dark is a brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Maction is a brand when we start getting those games. How can you make your program a brand? Like, what would Arizona State's brand be? Like, come up with a name for it.
The Bling Canes.
Something like that. I don't know. Like,
it can't be Desert Swarm, because Arizona.
Yeah, it can't be Desert Swarm.
Teddy Bruschi.
Yeah. Jim Tressel always used to say nothing good happens after midnight. Like, wouldn't it be great if like Arizona State was like everything awesome happens after midnight? This is when their games happen. It's when the parties happen.
Yeah.
It's when
I love it.
Old Town Scottsdale's humming. Young Ari Wasserman spent a ton of money down there and some weird nights. It's a great place to be. I don't know. And everyone's like, I just think that both of those schools, Arizona and Arizona State, have just been so woefully underperforming with what the potential is. I went to Arizona. I know the times that you have there. And it's like, why not get Dante Moore to go play at ASU?
Well, sure. I actually lived in Tucson. I went to a semester of school there.
Oh, you did?
Pima Community College, baby, 1994. So I found out.
I didn't know that about you, Scott.
Yeah. I found out the very hard way that Arizona's at that time Iowa's beer was 3.2, and it was not in Arizona, and I found out the hard way.
Yeah,
Big time. First time I had about 12 of them.
All right, so crack open a Four Peaks kilt lifter. That's a local Arizona beer, by the way. We will be right back, and we're going to talk about what this means to a couple of other jobs that I think we're going to see come open pretty soon. It's college football season, which means you need Sling TV, where you can watch unbeatable college football coverage starting at just $35 a month. Get everything you love about college football, like rivalries, marching bands, bowl games, conference power rankings, all of it with Sling. Plus, Sling has all the big games on all the biggest channels like ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN3, SEC Network, ACC Network, Fox, Big Ten Network, Longhorn Network, Pac-12 Network, all for the best price. And the best part is, getting Sling is easy. It's easy to set up and even easier to use. You can stream it on any device and record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space. Plus, you won't get locked into a long-term contract. So if you're looking for the perfect place to spend your Saturdays, you need to look at Sling, where you can get everything you love about college football for the best price. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the live TV you love at a price you'll love. Try it today. Imagine having one extra day every week, more time to cook healthy meals, work on that novel, or just binge some really good TV. Heck, I might just do laundry on that day so that I don't have to worry about it the other days. That sounds perfect to me. Now it's all possible with ClickUp, the productivity platform that'll save you one day a week on work, guaranteed. ClickUp began with the premise that productivity was broken. There were too many tools to keep track of, too many things in entirely separate ecosystems. There had to be a more productive way to get through the daily hustle. ClickUp is the one tool to house all your tasks, projects, docs, goals, spreadsheets, and more. ClickUp is built for teams from 1 to 1,000 plus. It's packed with features and customization options that no other productivity tool has, so you can work the way that you work best. Whether you're in project management, engineering, sales, marketing, or HR, ClickUp has easy-to-use solutions that create a more efficient work environment. Join the more than 800,000 highly productive teams using ClickUp today. Use the code ANDY to get 15% off ClickUp's massive unlimited plan for a year, meaning you can start reclaiming your time for under $5 a month. Sign up today at clickup.com and use the code ANDY for 15% off. That's clickup.com and use the code ANDY. Hurry, this offer ends soon. Welcome back. So Nebraska's open. Arizona State's open. Those both feel like jobs that should have opened last offseason, and the ADs chose not to open them, and then they realized their mistake very quickly. What does that mean for jobs that we're pretty sure are going to come open, like Auburn, like Georgia Tech? We're recording this on Monday afternoon. It's been about an hour since Brian Harsin was addressing the media after they got smoked by Penn State. And he got a question about them going away from the run. And according to Nathan King from 24/7, he said, we want to run the football, but every game is different. You guys don't sit in the meetings. You don't get to play that card, Brian Harsin. You just got your ass kicked. Like, sorry. You don't know what you're doing. We already know that you don't know what you're doing as Auburn's coach. So accusing us, who actually don't know what we're doing, of not knowing what we're doing, it's
the same thing. Yeah.
It doesn't help you at all.
Except we don't make $10 million every few years.
Yeah. You don't have the high ground on that one because you haven't earned it. So look, if they lose to Missouri, you fire him right now, right?
Well, I think the most important thing you have to do when it comes to all this stuff is, what are the pros and cons of firing your coach in September? The pros are that you can move forward and kind of start, the rebrand or the rebuild,
right?
Earlier, right? And then you also have time to potentially salvage whatever recruiting class that you're trying to put together by having your assistants, who may or may not have jobs when the new guy gets hired, try to hold it together, right? The cons are that might be a hard thing to do with recruiting if you don't know the direction of the program. What's the point of firing a coach and potentially losing the locker room even more in the middle of the year? But I just think that the pros probably outweigh the cons, right? Like, we don't see it happen very often, do we? But should it? Like, is this the ideal time to fire a coach?
Well, listen, Harsin was going to get fired in January if their little coup thing had worked. So What's the difference?
Well, signed players is probably the difference. I know that the transfer portal's different, but makes things different a little bit. But you get through December 15th or whenever it is.
I think
I mean,
I don't think you wait on this one. I think if you lose out to, I mean, you look at their schedule after Missouri. They're playing LSU. They're at Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas at home, Mississippi State at Mississippi State, Texas A&M. I mean, they could go over through that streak, and every damn week it's going to be the same thing. Everybody's going to talk about how much longer before Brian Harson's out of there, and I think that could happen even if they beat Mizzou. So. I think in some ways you rip the Band-Aid off, you start to move on. Your AD can start talking to agents, and that way you kind of know a direction. You can get that back channel talk out of the way of, all right, do we want to go after Lance Leipold or Matt Campbell, or is there somebody else here?
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin, move him over from Ole Miss. So I think that's probably what I would do especially if they lose on Sunday.
I like Lane Kiffin to ASU.
I like Lane Kiffin to Auburn. Listen, Auburn has to, now. Is Lane an aggressive enough recruiter for Auburn? That is a legit question. Like,
the salary is going to be higher at Auburn for obvious reasons, right? Than it would be at ASU. But I try to think about like what my life would be like, and like me personally, I would rather coach ASU.
I just stay at Ole Miss though. Ole Miss is a better job than Arizona State.
Well, I mean, Arizona State doesn't have to play the SEC games every week.
Yeah, but Lane's doing okay with those games.
No,
too.
I know. I'm just trying to think like if Lane were able to get Jackson Dart and Zach Evans to go to ASU, like what would happen?
It could be.
Like, I mean, you could like Lane Kiffin could. I just like to think Lane Kiffin in charge of that brand we just described with good players.
Oh, it'd be tremendous. But
it'd be pandemonium.
He's built that brand at Ole Miss, and it's doing fine. So
yeah. Also, don't forget earlier on before the season started, I was pumping that Ole Miss to 6-0 or 7-0.
Oh, you've pumped. It's looking good. Like
I'm
prospects are looking good.
I didn't forget about you, Rebs. Like I'm high on them.
Speaking of Ole Miss, the team they just destroyed was Georgia Tech. They went to Atlanta, beat Georgia Tech 42-0. Jeff Collins will not be Georgia Tech's coach next year, barring like an absolute miracle. And I'm looking at the schedule. Like if they don't go to Orlando and beat UCF, which has not looked particularly great all season, but if Georgia Tech doesn't beat UCF, I'm struggling to find any wins because like Duke's not a gimme.
Mm-hmm.
Duke's kicking butt right now. So Duke's got to play that juggernaut Kansas.
For a minute there, Georgia Tech was doing okay in Atlanta a little bit. They had a few guys coming in.
Gibbs and
yeah. It kind of just bottomed out a little bit though.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think they thought things would turn out like they signed Jordan Yates, who had led a state title team at Milton. Well, I believe he's at Sam Houston State now. Like that didn't work out. Jeff Sims, I like the quarterback from Jacksonville. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, but they've not really been able to put anything together. And it's tough to be the guy after the guy when you were a triple option team and you're trying to change to something else, but something's got to be done there. Georgia Tech's an interesting one. Everybody's like, oh, academic standards. You can get guys into Georgia Tech. It's keeping them there. Classes are hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So that is something that you got to think about. Jeff Jelks, by the way, with the other one, we said Dion to everywhere else. How about Dion to Auburn?
Dion to anywhere.
Okay. Two questions. If Dion's at Auburn, do he and Saban still do the Aflac commercials together? 2, are Nick Saban and Kirby Smart scared of him as a recruiter at Auburn? Because I think that's the only question you need to ask when you're making that hire. And I think the answer is yes.
What does scared mean? Like respecting him as an opponent?
Do they respect him as someone who can get players that they would have gotten otherwise?
Yes, without question. Anybody, and I don't care what the reason was, anybody who can sign the number 1 overall player in a class to Jackson State is a bona fide star when it comes to recruiting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if I was like, and then you said it, so I said it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that to me is probably the most influential individual commitment in the history of recruiting, or at least modern day recruiting that we've tracked with stars and in the constellation. So I think that Deion Sanders is an instant legitimizer. You know, the same way that Lincoln Riley was an instant legitimizer for USC. Those don't happen. And I guess Scott Frost, to a certain extent, was an instant legitimizer for Nebraska when it happened, the day it happened.
But he didn't get a ton of players right off.
Right. So, but like when you start getting into that Lincoln Riley threshold of this place is different the second he was hired, like that's not something that is very common for the places like Georgia Tech and ASU and Auburn.
Yeah.
And if Deion were to go to any of those places, he, I think, is in that same echelon of instant legitimizer that Lincoln Riley was when he took the USC job. And I don't think that's is that a stretch to you guys?
No. And the other thing to consider is that Deion and his staff have been very successful at Jackson State. It's not just because he's Deion Sanders. Like they have clearly turned that team into a team that believes
they've got
in
better
itself.
players
Right.
than their
They
opponents.
do have better players now, but even when they didn't, when they were just pulling guys out of the transfer portal, they were winning games that Jackson State didn't win before.
Yeah.
So I think that matters more even than the name recognition, the recruiting ability. But
If you gave
I
Nick
put all
Serum
that
the Andy Staples branded truth serum that you shoot in the neck,
oh
right,
yeah,
the jugular.
we usually do this around playoff time. We're trying to figure out who the 4 seed is.
But it's got multiple uses.
Yeah.
Yours could just be mustard, but it goes into your neck and it makes you tell the truth. Like, do you think Nick Saban and Kirby Smart say the last person on earth they want there is Deion?
He's one of them.
I mean, who else would even be in that category?
It's a good question. I mean, I think Auburn would look at like a Jeff Grimes, who's been there before, who's worked at LSU, who runs an offense that would at Baylor that would be really, really interesting. Now, Dave Aranda is an interesting one too, but I think Dave Aranda fits better at a Baylor than he does at an Auburn.
Check what BSE just said to Georgia Tech there in the chat.
Todd Monken.
Lower.
Oh, Jamie Chadwell to Georgia Tech. Yeah. You know it.
Yeah.
Triple option principles, but an offense the quarterbacks want to play in. Whoop.
What about Jamie Chadwell to Arizona State?
Oh, go. And then he might take it too. Now, his wife has said she ain't letting him leave the South. So that is, it's low in the country. It's not the Southeast, but it is low in the country.
Yes,
and
if you don't want to leave the South, I get it. But like Arizona State, if it is out of the South, might be the closest thing to the South, right? I don't know.
Yeah, Arizona's kind of like the South. I mean, it's hot and it's also
hot and there's mountains, but
it's also kind of philosophically similar. I just think Deion is the type of guy that could walk in and get way back into this part of the conversation. Is the one guy that transcends generations. That when you see him, when he was working for NFL Network on draft day, and he's walking up to people talking to him, they were thrilled to talk to Deion. That doesn't happen with. Take your pick from a great 90s, an NFL player like a Howie Long. That didn't happen with him.
It's a really good point, Scott, because Deion Sanders is one of those people that threads that needle of 35-year-old me remembers watching him as a kid and like is starstruck. You got people in their 60s who remember him, and you've got 10-year-olds that know who he is. Like he's primetime, baby.
Yeah.
He's the guy with the golf cart. He's got the bling. He's got the commercials.
Yeah.
So,
he's complaining that somebody stole his bag after a season opener.
Right.
How great would those Aflac commercials be if it is the Alabama coach and the Auburn coach? Like,
that
would be tremendous. I want that now. I really do.
they'd have to have a major buy on SEC Network for that.
What about Arizona State's new brand, guys? Prime time is new time.
Or
the new prime time.
It's just exactly the new prime time. That's perfect.
Prime time after dark.
The new prime time at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Prime time in prime time. It just sells itself. It really does.
I want to go to Arizona State now. I want to go back to college when Deion Sanders is the head coach.
It would be amazing.
And what's so funny about that whole thing is that, and we didn't talk about this with the ASU stuff, but Arizona State's major problem is, and I'm growing up, or somebody has grown up there. All of my friends I grew up with.
You grew up 15 miles from campus, right?
But nobody that I was friends with in high school, including myself, their parents did not grow up there. So it is a city filled of transplants or people who are from different areas who come there to relocate because it's 72 degrees.
I grew up in Orlando. Same thing.
So the type of person, when we were talking a little bit about Kenny Dillingham, of like a guy who grew up there who could sow the oats of the of the locals. Like, I don't know if that exists. I think you need to be able to create a product that makes people from Arizona feel like the coolest thing that they can do is stay home. Because they're not staying home because of any family ties. They're not staying home because that Arizona State flags are hanging all in their basements. You know, in Phoenix, people have Notre Dame flags hanging and Ohio State flags and Alabama flags. You got to do, and like Deion Sanders is the exact type of person that makes you be like, you know what? I don't really care about ASU. I never have, never watched their games. I know I'm from here, and I've watched Alabama play every weekend. But like, he's right there, and I'm right here. I want to play for that guy. He's right there.
Right. When I worked at the Elcon Mall in Tucson, Arizona for
dude, look at you, man.
I'm bringing up olds.
Yeah.
After the Wildcats, the most popular jacket sales that we had, I think, in the fall were Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan because of the snowbirds. Yep. And I think that's the same case with, in the Phoenix area, where you go to the Chicago sports bar and it's filled with Bears fans, Cubs / White Sox, whatever. And the difference between that and Florida in some ways is, I mean, Arizona still has a lot of older people who go there in the wintertime and snowbird, but Phoenix has a lot of younger people from the Midwest who decide, you know what, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Phoenix.
I think that's part of the reason why their professional sports have suffered with fandom. Because everybody there doesn't care about the Coyotes play in a college arena, don't they?
Well, they will now.
Or whatever they're playing. Yeah. I'm not even a hockey person. I know they don't have
the Suns have, but as the Suns have gotten good, their
but what's the thing about the Suns that the other two haven't been able to do? When they had Steve Nash, it's not just that they've been good.
They had Barkley. They went to the finals with Charles.
When they had Steve Nash and all those guys, and they were running and gunning, they were one of the most entertaining products in the sport to watch.
But that's only been like the one team. I mean, that's like the homegrown team. You know, the Cardinals moved from St. Louis. They're still the Cardinals. Why didn't they change to the Arizona Firebirds or Redbirds or something like that? But that's why I think if you make Arizona State cool, that could be the alternate.
If you could get Arizona State to play the way the Suns played when Nash was running the show.
I will say, like, Grand Canyon basketball managed to do that. I did a story a few years ago. I went to a Grand Canyon versus Illinois basketball game in Phoenix. That's the best college basketball home environment in America that isn't like a blue blood like Duke or Fog Allen, or like, it is incredible. And they've done it from the ground up, grassroots. Like, that's what Arizona State football has to do. The difference is you have to win because the stadium's that big. You gotta win to fill it. Right. But I think you guys are on the right track. I really do. We got to come back. When we do, we got to talk about a statement from an athletic director who isn't going to fire his coach because he doesn't have the money. And we're also going to guess the college game day picker for the week. You guys know I like to get my daily workout in, but in the past, when I had a few beverages the night before, I didn't always get to the gym. And that's a problem. But there is a solution, and it's called Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic that is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that is to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. So just remember to drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Give Z-Biotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/Andy to get 15% off your first order when you use the code Andy at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money. No questions asked. Halloween's right around the corner, so order a pack of Z-Biotics for you and your friends today to make sure you get it in time for candy and cocktails. And I know it's big in my neighborhood, and I will absolutely be drinking Z-Biotics before any trick-or-treating action. Go to zbiotics.com/Andy. Use the code Andy to get 15% off. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I got out of college in the Internet 1.0 era, and we didn't know how to connect like this. There were jobs out there that I didn't know about that I'd probably been great for, And I'm sure the employer would have liked to have known that there were some people like me out there. Well, now you have that capability. It is so easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn Jobs, and then you add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Andy. That's linkedin.com/Andy to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. That's linkedin.com/Andy. Welcome back. So we're talking about jobs that either are open or may come open. But there's a job that isn't coming open, and it's because they don't have the money. Rick George, the athletic director of Colorado, put this statement out yesterday, and it was a joy to read. Let me tell you. From the desk of Rick George, it says, "Dear Buffalo supporters, like all of you, I have been disappointed to watch our football team struggle this fall, most recently yesterday at Minnesota. I know that our coaches and our student athletes are capable of so much more, and that all of you deserve better results. I want to know that I hear you. I recognize and understand your disappointment and frustration and perhaps even anger. We have not come close to meeting our expectations this season, and we own that. I know that Coach Durrell, our coaching staff and support staff, and our student athletes are working hard to get us on track. And with conference play starting this Saturday, we hope we will all enjoy a home victory over UCLA. Regardless of your feelings right now on Colorado football, I encourage you to continue to support our tremendous football student athletes who need your cheers, encouragement, and support now more than ever." Translation: if you ingrates had given us some more money, we could have afforded Carl Durrell's buyout, or maybe we wouldn't have lost Mel Tucker in the first place. Does that sound about right?
That's where they are. This is a program that 20 years ago, when they were lighting up Nebraska and going to major bowl games and incorporating headlines like creamed corn in the Kansas City Star when they beat the Nebraska that year.
2001, that's right.
And then when they left for the Pac-12, I mean, thought we all expected Colorado to still be not only relevant, but an important part of college football. But they've dropped to the point now where, I mean, their revenues are among the worst in the Pac-12. They don't have enough money to keep any good coaches they have. They've made an obvious mistake here because they might be the worst Power 5 program right now in the country. And the way they played the other day really proves it. So, but the one interesting part about his contract is if they fire him before, I think it's December 31st, it's right around like $11.4 million they would owe him. After December 31st, they'd still owe him for the next 2 years, but it'd be like $7.8 million.
See why? Okay. Rick George is the AD who presided over that contract.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Why do you make that date December 31st? And I realize the agent probably said it has to be. No, the date is November 1st. The date is November 29th. The date is sometime before you need to hire a coach so you can fire him. Like December 31st means you're stuck for an extra year.
Yeah.
This is how, I mean, all ADs get fleeced, and Lord knows I've seen.
That's an easy thing. That's not a hard thing. Like, no, for our purposes, and I realize the school's fiscal year is probably, they're usually like July 1st to June 30th. For our purposes, coach, your fiscal year is November 26th through November 25th. That is your fiscal year.
Yeah.
But this is where the agent got him. And basically saying, if you're going to fire him and after your season finale, after you get killed by Utah, then you're going to have to pay up for next year, and the rest of this year. Instead, here they are. They're going to have to, they want to wait. And it's smart by the agent, and it's stupid again by the AD, which is always par for the course in this thing.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you knew, Colorado. This really goes back to, this has been happening since Rick Neuheisel left for Washington in 1999. Like they've been getting outbid. It's crazy to think of how the market has changed. I went back and looked at it last night. So when Rick Neuheisel left Colorado for Washington, he was getting a raise from $630,000 a year to $980,000 a year. Like that over about $250,000. Like, can you imagine a Power 5 coach leaving one Power 5 job for another over $250,000?
Yeah. Wow.
Well, back then it was a little bit different money wise, but yeah,
I know it was a quarter
crazy.
of his salary.
Yeah.
You would take, or it was it was about a third of his salary.
Yeah.
We're a bad at math podcast here,
half,
but
yeah.
yes.
But but they haven't been able to sustain any of this, and that's just what's really crazy, because we remember. I mean, I'm going back to like Joel Klatt, but hell, like Rashawn Salam and when they're winning national championships in like
Odell
1990.
Stewart, they were awesome. They were just awesome.
I mean, the Pac-10 wanted to bring in Texas and Colorado back when Penn State joined the Big Ten, and that was what their plan was, and Texas had to back out. It's just amazing that now, I don't know if they begged they could get back in the Big 12. Maybe they could, just to spite everybody.
They might be able to. Well, it would get the Big 12 Arizona and Arizona State and Utah too if they wanted to come. But I don't think
I just don't even know what's like in 2022, like what does Colorado do to be good? Like we just outlined an entire plan for Arizona State, a team that has been notorious for underachieving. It's like I don't even know where I would begin there.
You look at what they've tried to do. They tried to do different things. They've tried retreats. They've tried Mike McIntyre. That worked for a split second and then failed. They've got
Mike McIntyre won the division.
Yes, and then it completely fell off the face of the earth. I mean, really, to me, their programs, some need sizzle, like we just talked about with Dion. Other ones need builders. I think Nebraska is one that needs a builder.
Right.
It needs Lance Leipold. It needs Chris Kleiman. It needs Matt Campbell. It needs somebody who, and then get the 1990s out our back right now. That's what their problem is. Colorado needs a builder who, if he could just say, look, give me a couple years, we're going to need some time, because this thing is a disaster.
Yeah.
Give Trey Parker and Matt Stone complete. Let them buy complete control of the program. The South Park guys.
Yeah.
Let them just buy complete control. Make it the funniest program in America. Like, they can just make the funniest hire they want to. Like, have it. There's your identity right there. Because I don't know what else you're going to do. I mean, it's a beautiful place. There's lots of craft beer. You can get stoned in every imaginable way, and it's completely legal.
Do you think they could get Squeak Scolari to be the recruiting coordinator?
I don't know.
It'd be kind of cool. It'd be kind of cool is like on third down, in Denver for the Broncos, they chant incomplete. For them, throwing out the South Park, if they said, the incomplete pass on third down, you killed Kenny, and everybody shouts, "You bastard!
You bastard!" That's perfect. Blame Canada. Blame. That could be the new fight song.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Have Cartman show at a tea party, and you can make fun of another coach doing that. With
talk about their throwback uniforms.
If you have a goal line stand, Cartman in the cop outfit comes on and respect my authority.
I love it. It's awesome.
Perfect. All right, we have one more topic we need to tell. Well, there's two more topics. First of all, Scott, we need to know how your birthday went. You celebrated it as the clock hit midnight during a rain delay in the Kinnick Stadium press box. You then stayed at Kinnick Stadium through about 4 a.m. The game ended at 1:45 a.m. Central Time. How was that last 4 hours of lovely Iowa-Nevada football?
It sucked. Let's face it. I mean, it's the second straight week we had rain, but this one, I mean, it took 7 hours to complete the whole thing, and 4 of which were delays sitting there. I mean, my whole goal with the night game was, hey, it's going to be perfect out. I'm going to get out of the press box about midnight, go down a couple of brewskis and tip back on 49, and then voila. Well, I was there till after 4:30 in the morning and got home about 5.
What'd you do during the delay? Were you watching other games?
Eat popcorn, pet the dog.
Yeah, well, I didn't eat popcorn. I was watching some games. I was walking around talking to people and then doing some stats. I do a ton of stats on Mondays and Sundays, and did it in the between the games. So yeah, I filled out my our Heisman ballot, and Matt was like, "Hey, aren't you going to wait till the end of the Iowa game?" I'm like, "I think I'll pass this week."
Scott, Andy and I were up till, was it 2:30 and 1:30, or was it, I don't know how
we
late
were
it
up
was
till
for
the
you.
game ended. We recorded right after the game ended. So
and then the next morning I had to wake, and we wished you a happy birthday live on YouTube. But the next morning I had to wake up early and do the morning shift with the baby. And I told my wife on Sunday, the only thing I want to do, I don't care what you want me to do all day, I'll do all the stuff, but all I want to do is lay down and watch the Sunday night football game tonight. And I laid down on my couch at like 7:30 when it started, and I fell asleep at 7:45, and I woke up at 2 a.m. on my couch.
So the Bears were winning when you fell asleep, and you're like, "Wait, the Packers killed them."
And that's how tired I was, and I never left my house. So like, I just want you to know that I can't imagine what your situation was like, and you've been through hell this year, and I know that it's a lot of times people don't recognize that. I just want you to know from friend to friend that I recognize you and your strife. So like, that was rough. I mean, I was thinking about you.
I tell you what, it never ends. And thanks for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. And I had to endure the Bears game because that's kind of the team I followed. So it's not exactly like that was a great gift either at later in the night. But
do you think Justin Fields will throw it more than 10 times in a game this year?
I hope so. But it's like, half the time it's like watching the same game twice. It's like Saturday's version and then Sunday's version when I watch them. And then I thought
the Bears are the Iowa. I think Pardon My Take said that on Monday's show. Like the Bears are the Iowa of the NFL.
Yeah, and well, like this week, I'm like, I'm going to schedule my flight from Rutgers really early Sunday morning. Like 6 to get back in time. I had no idea that it was going to end up being a night game. I'm like, oh God, I got to get back to Newark at 1 a.m. and fly out at 6. That's going to be great. So yeah, every week's something, I tell you. But no, it was.
You earned those birthday brews. I hope you enjoyed them when you finally got them.
Yeah, I still haven't got them yet.
Maybe there's time after this podcast.
Yeah.
All right, let's pick the college game day guest picker. I think we need to make this a regular segment because
this is a regular segment. I was just going to say it.
Yeah.
This is hilarious, and we're doing it every week.
Because I get so tired of it. Like as soon as I found out they're in Knoxville, I'm like, oh God, they're going to pick Kenny Chesney again. Please don't. I know he's from near there. I know he claims to be a Tennessee fan, but the man pretends to be a fan of every school he's within 5 miles of. He actually owes Jimmy Buffett a quarter of every dollar he's ever made for ripping off his shtick. So let's not do that. Yeah. Now I think the obvious choice, and I like it when they make good choices. Like last year they had Kane Brown. He was horrific. Like make sure the person is excited to be there. Like if you call their agent up and they're like, well, we guess, just hang up and call someone else. Like Luke Combs was the guy this week. He seemed very excited to be there. Seemed like a big Appalachian State fan, which is good. And Luke Combs is a big country star. Perfect. Ideal. I was there for the greatest game day guest picker of all time. I was in Oxford when Katy Perry was the guest picker.
Oh, yeah.
So her tour manager was a big Ole Miss fan. That's where the connection was. But the thing is, I don't think Katy Perry follows college football at all, but Katy Perry is an entertainer and understands if you're going to go on national television, you got to bring it. So Katy Perry's like saying LSU fans smell like corn dogs and telling Trevor Knight to call her and understanding that this is an opportunity to build the brand. And so I want people who care. Like Jack Harlow looked very bored that first
Why
week.
was he even picked there to begin with?
I don't know. Like Young Gravy
From
actually went to
Louisville.
a Big Ten school. Like Young Gravy's a Wisconsin grad. So if they ever go to Madison, we go do Young Gravy. But so Dolly Parton would probably be the ideal choice for this because who doesn't love Dolly Parton? Like Dolly Parton and Scott Van Pelt are the two most likable human beings in America. Am I wrong? Like I've never met anyone who's like, I don't like that Dolly Parton.
No.
Yeah. I made a list. I don't know how you did it, but I made a list.
Oh, I have one particular Tennessean that I'm going to promote, but you go ahead. Let's hear your list.
My list?
Yeah.
Number 1, Greg Schiano.
I think he's busy, but go on.
He's busy. All right, then he doesn't get to do it. Okay. Kathy Bates, under the assumption, because these are all people from Tennessee that I found.
Okay.
She has to do the foosball. Foosball is the devil.
Oh, she has to be.
She has to be the water boy
Bobby
persona.
Boucher's mom. Yes. Now, Kathy Bates is an Academy Award winner, right?
Yes.
I am also going to put forward an Academy Award winner, but go ahead.
Leanne Tui.
From The Blind Side?
Yeah, well, the real one.
Yeah.
And she has to talk about Michael Orr's recruitment as part of the segment.
So
she has to wear orange.
Now, her son works for UCF. He's
I know.
Gus Malzahn's right-hand man.
He's
UCF,
the man.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
SJ, the guy in the movie who ran onto the field with, was it Nick Saban in the movie?
I believe so.
Is now the recruiting coordinator at UCF and just landed a huge commitment a few weeks ago or a few months ago that they're trying to hold on to. But
when Leanne Tui would be at your Oxford one when Alabama and Ole Miss play.
Yeah,
when they're
so
both undefeated.
she has to wear Tennessee colors this week. Okay. Thinking about entertaining people, Bill Belichick is from Tennessee. I'd love to watch him pick games.
He was born in Tennessee, really?
Yeah. I just found that out 5 minutes ago.
Did not know that.
Here would be a tremendous one, and this would be the person that I would pick. So I'll stop. My other list, I had Mookie Betts, Justin Timberlake, and Quentin Tarantino, which watching Quentin Tarantino pick college football games seems kind of funny to me, but maybe I'm alone in that. But the one I would pick would be
tell you what, Kirk.
Guy's name is Johnny Knoxville. He's from Tennessee.
He's done it. He's been. I'm pretty sure he's done it.
I think he has done it.
Yeah, but that's a good one. PJ Clapp, I believe, is his real name. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with the Tennessee, and now he's from Memphis, so 6 hours drive from Knoxville. It's probably easier for him to get to an Ole Miss.
Does he narrate a lot of things?
He does not narrate a lot of things, but he is an Academy Award winner.
Wow. Okay. I thought we were going Morgan Freeman on this one. Is it someone else?
Morgan Freeman's from Mississippi, so he's
from
not
Memphis.
from Memphis. Well, no, he grew up in Mississippi. So
okay, I didn't know his background. I speak,
of course, of Juicy J from 3-6 Mafia. If he wants to bring along his brother Project Pat, that would be great too. I would take them as a team, but I want Juicy J as the.
How many
picker.
people do you think know who Juicy J is?
Juicy J. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Academy Award winner Juicy J.
For It's Hard Out There for a Pimp.
The song It's Hard Out There for a Pimp was the best original song. It's from Hustle and Flow. It was the best original song that year. Actually beat a Dolly Parton song.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. Scott, do you have a guess?
Yeah, I've got two. The easy one that is Peyton Manning, but I don't know that I would go there. But
that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
He's at Omaha Productions. He's got a bunch of shows on ESPN now, so maybe
he should do the Texas one.
Yeah.
Trader.
By the way, we do. Noah brings this up. This is another one. Our friend Spencer Hall.
Oh,
he's been promoting this for years. Bill Dance and Ari. You didn't grow up watching fishing shows, I take it.
No, I did not. Sorry.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Scott.
Yes.
Bill Dance was on frequently in my house. Bill Dance is this guy who hosts a fishing show. He's always wearing a Tennessee hat. Half the time he's falling out of his boat. The other half he's catching a fish on every cast. And I remember asking my dad, I'm like, how is he that good?
Yeah.
And my dad's like, they edit that, right? They just don't show the casts that don't catch anything. I'm like, oh.
Is this guy super famous?
He is in my world.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never heard of him until right now.
Hey, I grew up on the Mississippi River, so
yeah, I'm all for actually Bill Dance and Juicy J at the same time.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Mine actually is Kevin Nash.
Oh, he is the mayor of Knox County right now.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash, the wrestler, Diesel
basketball
in the WWE at one point.
Yeah, he played basketball for the Vols.
Yeah.
6'10", walks out, maybe wearing one of his NWA shirts, from back then. And because the most exciting
I'm sorry.
NWO.
Kane is the mayor of Knox County. My bad. Kane is the mayor of Knox County. Kevin Nash, you're right, former Vols basketball player.
Yeah. The most exciting pregame show here was when the Big E showed up for one of the big noon kickoffs because College GameDay refuses to come to Iowa City. It hasn't been here since 2006. So, but I think another pro wrestler for Tennessee, Florida, a 6'10" guy who could come up and take maybe him and Pat McAfee on the stage together.
Well,
Man,
yeah, they could
that'd
do
be
a
awesome.
work or a shoot.
You know, I'm reading about this Bill Dance guy, and I got to tell you, this is the guy.
Is that right?
This has to be the guy.
If you want a Florida-related wrestler, you got Thaddeus Bullard also.
Yeah.
Titus O'Neil is his stage name, but Thaddeus Bullard was his name when he played for the Gators. So that you could do Kevin Nash and Titus O'Neil together if you want to do that.
Or just bring back, Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman and all the other
I
great
think Hulk
faces.
Hogan got canceled, so I don't think that's happening. But no, all right. Bill Dance is our first choice. Kevin Nash, Juicy J,
And Dolly.
Oh man, so I got
and Dolly. Dolly's the dream. I think Dolly might be a little too big.
I got shut out. My entire list got shut out. No Greg Schiano?
He's busy. He's got to play Michigan, Nori.
I got to see him
Can't
on
stop
Saturday.
by.
I'll tell him you said hi on Saturday when I see
Yeah,
him.
you let him
He's
know.
got to stop that high-powered offense that ripped through Colorado State, Hawaii, and Connecticut.
I thought Kathy Bates was
No,
creative.
right.
But okay.
I thought Kathy
Yeah.
Bates was great. I did not
Yeah.
realize she was from Tennessee. She does not have to be Mrs. Boucher, though. I think if she was her character from Misery, just like terrorizing Kirk Herbstreit, that
Yeah.
also would be entertaining.
Yeah, she's got quite the expansive portfolio, but I feel like we've strayed too far away from what could be awesome, which is like don't have to find a mega celebrity who's like everybody like those niche guys too. Like I don't know anything about this Bill Dance guy, but reading about him for 5 minutes and looking at all of his pictures, like it would be wildly entertaining. And he wears a
that's the
Tennessee
thing.
hat in every
He's an
single
actual
picture.
Tennessee fan. Like he
I know.
suffered through the Derek Dooley years and the Jeremy Pruitt years. He's earned this.
Because like I thought that the Jack Harlow one was one of the worst ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was right up there with Kane Brown. Like, if there's no energy, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You find somebody who wants to
I think
be
there
there.
should be a prereq that like there's of two things. One, like you said, you have to have an entertainer's persona. So if you're not a big college football nut, you can at least make people feel like you are. Or
Yep.
two, being a big college football nut, like having people on there who are just famous and don't care about the sport and don't understand what's so awesome about college game day and being in that environment that day. It's like it's a disservice to the fans who watch the show, in my opinion.
One of my all-time favorite guest pickers was Brad Paisley, because he is the saltiest West Virginia fan you ever met. Like, he like they mentioned Pitt, and he's just like, I hate Pitt, hate them.
Yeah. And I also think that they kind of are starting to stink with where they go.
I think Knoxville in this.
I'm not
case
saying
now,
this in this case,
Yeah.
but I just mean like, why not pick a place like Kansas?
Well,
Or like
that would
go
be
to
fun.
different places.
But I will tell you that Knoxville, when they're excited, there are fewer better big game towns.
There's
Now,
no
I think
question.
Florida losing to Kentucky took some shine off that, and Florida almost losing to USF took some shine off that. But Tennessee,
That comment wasn't directed
pumped.
at Tennessee, so I hope people don't take it that way. I just
Yeah.
mean that, like in general, if there's a game that is kind of like big for the moment or different, like spread the love around to new campuses and new places, because the
That's
people
what they
who
did
view
last
the
week.
show,
They went to Appalachian State.
yeah, I know, but like you think that they go to the same collection of 10 places over and over again, in my opinion.
They're trying. They went to Boone, man. Give them some credit.
Yeah, okay, they do get some credit for that.
I haven't seen him since 2006.
What's the deal with? Is there a reason for that, Scott?
They don't want to come back.
The offense is not exciting.
Yeah, I mean they didn't go in any of those years. No, it's just the schedule never lined up. You know, usually when they've come in the past Iowa City, it's been Ohio State coming to town, and then if they've only played Ohio State like 4 times.
Yeah, because Iowa's had some teams in the top 5 the last few years, so you'd think that it would
Well,
have happened.
last year there was Penn State and Iowa were 3 and 4, and then they decided not to come. Now they did go to Ames twice in the last 3 years for Iowa State, but they just I don't know. It's a great campus. It's an incredible environment, but maybe they'll come here for Michigan. That'll be.
I
the
think
last
that
time.
I would have watched game day from Iowa right now
Yeah.
and embrace the offensive suck.
I'm just ready for Juicy J making picks. Let's make it happen. We will talk to you on Thursday on this show, but I'll be on the Athletic Football Show feed on Prospects to Pros on Wednesday. Ari and Mitch Light will be doing Stars Matter later this week. You've got Power Hour with Nicole Auerbach. You've got Football and Grits, our SEC show that dropped on Monday, and you can go back and listen to that now. We got you completely covered. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. This show is brought to you by Sling TV, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Check out sling.com for special offers.